Hey, what's up, guys? Coming to you today, it's me, Stevie the Blessed, and I am here for episode 3 from L.I.T series. You know, Let's Imagine Together, L.I.T, that thing everybody's talking about. No, I'm just playing. No, it's not even like that. But I am here. I'm excited. We got another thing to talk about today. You know what? Today we're calling it Chew It Twice. I had to think about this for a little bit. I knew the concept that I wanted to talk about, and that title was not coming to me. And somehow it just, ooh, chew it twice. Mama ever told you gotta chew your food twice? Take time chewing your food before you eat it. Why? Because you need to digest it properly. Why am I talking about food? I'm sure many people are wondering. Well, of course, I'm speaking metaphorically. We're gonna think about how we can chew those experiences a little bit better before we digest them. You know, it could be many different things that we can maybe go over twice, take a little bit more time to absorb before we try to process it fully on an emotional, spiritual, mental level, whatever you want to say. So as I'm diving into this video today, it's only proper that I start off with, hopefully the new viewers out there, they understand this whole L.I.T movement, this whole Let's Imagine Together, this idea, the series, what's it about? It's about a chance to pay it forward. I truly believe that this opportunity that we're taking together, you watching the video, me doing the video, us taking on these exercises, you know what? This is our chance to really get grounded and to gain a chance of stepping into this law of circulation, this giving and receiving principle. That is how we experience all gifts. It's through a process of giving and receiving. I've received so much gifts of time, people giving me different intellectual ideas that stimulate me over time. And so I totally believe that knowledge is one of my favorite gifts to pay it forward. You know, it could be support, it could be money, it could be many things, but my choice I'm paying it forward today is going to be through just, my intake on different things that I see are relevant and worth talking about. We're all on social media anyways. We're probably scrolling through our Facebooks anyways, probably on YouTube anyways. So why not start to fill the internet with something that is like, hey, let's tickle your brain on a good note. I kind of like the sound of that. So that's what the whole purpose of this is. I thank you again for joining me as we keep it moving. And today, as we talk about chew it twice, because I'm trying to help you digest. We need good bellies around here. So my questions for you guys, as I was kind of thinking about this, have you felt like you maybe had a few aha moments lately? Maybe you did chew it twice and then you finally were like, ooh, gotcha, that makes sense. It finally processes on a whole new level. Sometimes I have to think about watching things 3 times in order to feel like I really got the gist of what was happening, or listening to a song over and over again. Like, all these things kind of happen where finally I'm digesting it to its fullest extent. And I question maybe you've experienced things like that too. Why am I talking about this today? Because it's been happening a lot. I feel like things that I've had around me have been kind of showing up in a whole new light. And it's like, you've been here this whole time. So how am I, it's cool. I'll take the opportunity to chew it twice and maybe digest a little something that I didn't get through the first time. So there's many different ways, like I said, it can show up. I think it can show up in books. We're reading things, we read it again, and then, you start to recognize things that come into play that you maybe did not see or get the first time. I think it comes a lot in music, and I put it in my music and hope that people kind of have to listen to it a few times to catch all the different messages. I see it a lot of times in movies, and they're meant to be that way. Sometimes it's in relationships too, though. And that is something I think is a slightly different perspective to think about. Think about the people who are in your life. We have different coworkers that we're around on a regular basis. It could be our siblings that we're around or not around very often. It could be somebody on a romantic level. It could be like a boss. It could be your friends in general. I think that there is something to be said about the people that we attract. They say birds of a feather flock together, or you are who you hang with. But I think it's deeper than that. And I think that the kind of relationships that we do continue to kind of bring into our life and attract into our life that we are experiencing, there's something to it and why we're attracting that kind of individual into our life. And when we can really recognize that I'm repeating the kind of, especially if it's not the kind of relationship you'll want to have, if you keep repeating that kind of thing, it's an opportunity for you to chew it twice and recognize, like, what in this can I learn on a physical, spiritual, mental level that I can maybe digest a little bit further and move past. It's all about the growth at the end of the day. And that's why I like talking about these kind of things that make me think like, ooh, what can I learn? How can I get past this? Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't serve me, I want to keep it moving and focus on the next thing that I can continue to upgrade. And I think it should be like that for everybody. So it's not just about, you know, different things you read or what you see, and you can see it a couple times and digest something and chew it twice. It's about who's in our life. It's about how our life is showing up and telling us that we maybe need to chew something twice to get it on a deeper level. So for me, recently, there was something that really hit me. It was a quote, and I feel like growing up, I probably heard the quote before, and for some reason, like it didn't mean anything, and yet I remembered it. So on some level, maybe subconsciously, we talked about that, something hit me, but on a conscious level, it was just like, I heard it before. But it was always something about faith and having faith in God. And I think I read that, you know, there's a difference between having the faith of God versus faith in God. And I always kind of thought about that, but it didn't seem to resonate in me, because I always felt like I was pretty strong in my faith. And lately, that quote came up again when I was in class, and it just like hit me. It hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was just like, there is such a difference. There was such a difference between me feeling like I have to have this faith in God, which my faith, I'm an individual, I'm a person, I'm a human. So sometimes I have good days and I have bad days, and I'm having to worry about me being able to muster up enough faith in God to deliver something and hopefully, you know, answer to these things that I keep calling for. And maybe I'll have enough faith, maybe I won't. So that might dictate whether or not it actually happens. And that kind of faith, it was working for a while, but it was questionable at times. And then recognizing more recently, like there's a shift when I even take that simple quote and think about having the faith of God versus just the faith in God. And now this faith of God, God would never question God. God knows that miraculous extent of which things can be delivered, things can intricately be created and manifested. There would be no question ever to that will and that immediate, you know, answer to that supply and demand. So that to me was just like this shift that made me feel empowered. Like if I can have that faith of God, it will never be weary. It will never be questionable. It will never be relevant on something else. And I just felt like empowered to a whole nother level. And it was something that I'd heard way before in my life. And yet somehow that quote lately has done something for me. So that's a chance recently that I got to chew it twice. And I really was like, what else can I go back and reread or rethink about that will start to sit and resonate on another level? So there was that quote. Recently, also, I came across this calendar probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not going to get in super depth with it today. Maybe I'll talk about it in one of these videos. But essentially, it's another kind of calendar that I've kind of incorporated that's supposed to really be around synchronicities and taking life to a deeper level, which obviously I like to do. So I already knew going into this calendar, like it was super complex. So I did a lot of reading around it, and honestly, I felt like some of it resonated and some of it I really could not understand. So I'm just gonna kind of incorporate it and see how it feels to play it out. And before I knew it, a couple years was going by, and I really liked this calendar, and certain things just continued. Even if I didn't understand it, at the end of the day, I was recognizing that it was in one way or another coinciding, and it seemed to correlate on things that were happening in my life. So I kept it around, and it was funny because each year as I got the calendar, I feel like I would reread it through again. And I'm thinking, I already read this, but I'm gonna read it again. And each year I probably kept reading because I was noticing something different. I was getting something different about the calendar, and it was just making a lot more sense to me on a level which it wasn't at first. So now I'm kind of excited because I'm thinking, well, maybe as I continue to incorporate it and integrate it into my life, I will start to see how it is deeper and deeper connected to what this entire experience is about. And sure enough, I just recently ordered a new calendar. It's a little strange, but it starts in the middle of the year. And I was tempted to read it again, and this time I really felt like I kind of had what I was going to get, because the last time I went through it I gained so much, and I was like, oh, it makes sense, aha, left and right. So this time I was like, well, I guess it's just a little touch up on the things I already know. But I decided to go through it again, and wow, when I tell you, I feel like the gist of being able to bring my life into a new level of synchronicity and balance and just patterns that involve so much growth and creativity, there was a key part of this entire calendar that I had missed and I wasn't getting. And I can't believe I overlooked it the whole time, and I don't think I was understanding it. And I remember seeing the symbol that, you know, basically led to go read more about that. And I never did, but this time I got it, and I feel like even more connected to something that I've had as a tool that's been surrounding me for the past 3-4 years. So when I decided to really slow down, chew it twice, maybe chew it 3 or 4 times, I got something, and I feel like it just digested on a whole new level. And wow, that felt good enough to make me inspired to like tell people, like, if you got a good book at home, maybe you should try that again. Read through that chapter that you like the most one more time and see what else you get from it, because I was not expecting that. On a different note, gonna flip it up a little bit. Those of you kind of like to watch movies, there's a movie called Cloud Atlas. It is about reincarnation. It's a really good movie. It's got, like, I think Halle Berry, Tom Hanks, so there's a lot of good actors and actresses in there. And it's probably about a 2.5, 3-hour movie, so it's a little on the long side. It's about reincarnation, so it makes sense. I already expected to need to watch this movie twice in order to get it. And of course, that second time around when I watched the movie, I felt like I started to see things and patterns and connections about different lives that were starting to add up that I was not seeing at first. So I definitely was like, okay, now I get this movie. And then I think I had the opportunity to watch it maybe some time later, and it was for the third time, and I was like, well, I already get it, but it was a good movie, so I'll watch it again. And it was once again one of those things that I'm like, how did I watch this movie twice already? And I totally missed that this was happening, and I watch it for the third time, and I'm like, oh, and you know, things are adding up that I was not doing the math for, obviously, the first or second time. So I thought that that was kind of cool. Another thing that I had really, like, it slapped me in the face, like, how did you not catch that? But you liked it, so you might have caught it on some level. It's a song I listened to. It's called Take Me Alive. It's by Andy Mineo. And this verse, I was always rapping it because it was always just this part, these couple bars from this verse, and it just made so much sense, so it always clicked with me. But I wasn't really getting what he was saying, but it's catchy, so I was catching on to it or whatever. And he said, in my mess, there's a message, in my testimony. And I'm just like, oh, like message, mess, testimony. And obviously the wordplay that was intricated into there, I did not get it at first. And yet I was all over that verse and I knew almost every word. And then eventually I'm rapping it to myself and I'm like, and I'm a rapper. So that I really have no excuse for not getting that. But that's the beauty in it. It took me 3, 4, 5, probably close to like 20 plus times that I heard that song before I finally caught on to the extra wordplay that was in there. And I already liked the song, so it made me like it that much more. So I'm telling you, left and right, I'm recognizing that I've had in the past, and I'm still having to this day, opportunities to chew it twice. And I'm happy for that opportunity because I'm trying to digest. I'm trying to get everything that I can, all the nutrients I can out of this life to continue to grow even stronger, because, you know, that's the goal. That's the goal. So, of course, as I'm coming to a close with this, my message is for you to think about where you can chew twice, chew a little bit slower, where you can maybe pick lessons out of the different experiences in your life and gain something from it. Like if you're ready for new adventures, you're ready to try new things, recognize that those new doors, they open when we can gain what we're supposed to gain from the current experience. And that is the idea, is that we keep opening these new doors and, you know, try new things and live life to the fullest, because who does not want that? So remember, always, there's a few things I'll ask you to interact with me with. That's part of the whole series that we're doing, but leave comments. If you want to hear something and you're kind of curious about a certain topic, like inspire me, let's get involved. Let's do this together. You're absolutely more than welcome. Once again, we're going to keep it respectful and we can have that back and forth motion. And just know, guys, this feels so good. It feels good to think about the fact that our life is geared to continue to teach us and help us expand to the best that we can be. So as we think about that universal life principle, that principle that is always enlightened, that's always just truly at the core ready to take on whatever there is, like that lies within us at all times. And if we can just tap into that, and I know that we tap into that, so many people are tapping into that, and they're feeling this insight, this new insight that helps them see deeper perspectives in everything in their life. I feel this in my life. I'm seeing new perspectives. My eyes are waking up and this perception is continuing to shift when it's my everyday experiences. And I see that for myself. I see that for everybody. And for that, I'm so grateful. I know the truth. I know the truth for me. I know the truth for you. And that is beautiful. I release it knowing that it is already done and there's nothing to stress about. And then we just accept it. We continue to step right into it. And why not? So of course, gonna leave you with a little affirmation, help this information and these concepts that we talked about today kind of sink in. And my affirmation is fairly simple this time. I am open to gaining new insight to my everyday experience. I'm gonna hit you one more time. Say it slowly so you can write it down if you need to. Look at yourself deeply and say, I am open to gaining new insight to everyday experiences. I love that. Maybe I said it a little bit differently the second time, but you got the gist. Make it your own. Make it your own, but make sure you get the gist of what that is. And lastly, as we're closing up the video, I just want to let you know that these week's practices, they relate on different levels. So one thing that I'll offer up for you to do is a little focused journaling. Think about it, just kind of reflect and write down those different opportunities that you might have to chew your food twice, chew your experiences in life twice in order to digest it properly. That little journaling can really help you to continue to train your brain to be awake and aware of those kind of opportunities that we can take and move on from, because we don't have to chew it twice, then let's not. And then I'm also gonna say it's full moon tomorrow, so why not do a little bit of releasing? That's what it's all about. Write a little letter. This is one of my favorite things. It's called a releasing ceremony. Write a letter, writing down whatever you need to forgive, acknowledging that it happened and not having to just completely put a blanket over it. Write it down, and when you're done, safely burn it and release it and be done with it. Or wash it and toss it, I like to say. Wash it under some water. Obviously the water is gonna start to destroy the paper. Take that, toss it, be done with it. This releasing is gonna help you to keep moving on lighter than ever, because that's what we want. All right, guys, it's so good to have this time with you. I say stay blessed, and until next week, you betcha.